Are we ready to do this thing? All right, we will call the meeting to order with a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Ms. Ross? Mr. Wall?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Mr. Wessels?
Here.
Ms. Whip? Here.
All righty. We will go right into citizens' comments. Well, actually, need a motion to amend the agenda to consider this proclamation. We have a motion to amend the agenda.
Yes.
All right. Weber, second. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Is there anyone here who wants to address council that isn't already on the agenda? All right. Moving right along then. In order to move this along, Steve, I'll let you introduce our newest member of the fire department.
Thank you, Mayor. As you remember, Jeffrey Hatter retired as a lieutenant from the department, and we had to replace him. We went a little while before we got a couple new people in here when we moved one of our other firefighter paramedics up to the lieutenant's position. And in February, we were able to hire Glenn. Glenn comes out of the Covington Fire Department. He was there for 13 years, and then he had some volunteer work that you did in Western Hills area over there? Part-time. And I just wanted to bring him so you guys could have an opportunity to meet him. He actually started in the beginning of February, and he's been working out great for us ever since. I know he's got a couple things he wants to talk about. Shouldn't take him 10 or 15 minutes.
You got like a 45-minute speech prepared, right?
What part of Western Hills did you work in?
I lived in Delhi. I worked at Delhi.
Did you?
Yeah, a few years.
Well, you ought to fit in great here because this is like the southwest side.
Yeah.
This is the Delhi of northern Kentucky right here. Everybody's German, everybody's Catholic, no one ever leaves.
I lived
Yeah.
west of Delhi. We lived in off of Bridgetown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to Elder.
Yeah, I went to Elder.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Very
Our past police chief went to Elder.
Really?
Yeah.
Small world.
I didn't put all this together when we hired him.
Yeah. He's Ohio. I don't know about
Is his probation period over yet, Steve?
Jonathan, you went to Elder too?
No,
that was Ed. Oh, Ed did? Oh, he did?
All right, well, welcome to the team. We appreciate you, and feel free to stick around or go find something more exciting to do.
You know my old Kentucky home?
Yeah, we're going to add that to the application process. You have to be able to recite My Old Kentucky Home in Bernie Wessels style.
Yeah, trust me, I don't.
Bernie will give you lessons on it.
I'll be sitting right next to you, so don't worry about it.
Welcome to the city.
Yes, thanks. Happy to have you on the team. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get back to our regular order then here. Minutes. We have minutes from the March 4th, 2026 council meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, motion Weber, second.
I'll second.
All right, second Collins. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Wessels?
Yes.
Ms. Whip? Yes.
All right, thank you all. Motion carries. Up next, minutes from the March 18th City Caucus meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Witt, second.
I'll second.
By Wall. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Whip? Yes. Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Wessels?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. That gets us into unfinished business. We currently have 3 items. Up first, the ambulance bid update. Chief Shuey.
Really, I was just seeking approval to go ahead and put it out to bid. I think the specs are completed. I went to a truck conference that was up in Indianapolis a couple weeks back, and I got a lot of information from basically it was just for the chassis manufacturer, not the upfitter, not the box manufacturer. But in essence, it's ready to go. We're going to go with a it's going to be on the heavier side of a light-duty chassis versus a medium-duty chassis that we've probably used the last 20-something years. And I'm having it written in there with a Dodge Ram.
Are you gonna do four-wheel drive?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So you're looking for,
Yeah, I guess it would be just approval to put it out to bid. This would be probably, it's going to be at minimum 2 years before it would.
that's wild. That's just wild.
That's what they're telling us right now, but a couple of the manufacturers have indicated that they're picking it up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be, they're not going to shave a year off of it or anything like that.
All right, well, do we have a motion to approve sending the ambulance out to bid? To get quotes. Collins, second. Wessels, any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yeah.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Wessels?
Yes.
Ms. Wood? Yes.
All right, motion carries. Proceed, sir. Up next, Walmart drone delivery service update. You want
Yes.
to light this one, Jill?
So I'll start and we'll finish up with Brooke. So as you know, we had lots of discussion at our last caucus meeting about a request that came from a Walmart to start drone delivery services sometime in the summer. We have started doing some research on this, although unfortunately, we've only had a little bit under a week just to kind of look into it. There's still lots of information to be gathered. PDS was meeting with their legal staff today to talk about options in terms of zoning developments, because we don't have anything currently in our zone that addresses these things in terms of times that they can deliver, the routes that they might deliver. There's just a lot of unknowns for us still that we need to investigate. One of the things that we looked at and we think is the best course of action at this time is to declare a moratorium on drone delivery services for about 6 months while we get our arms better around this topic. We'd like to meet with representatives from CVG to talk to them about FAA regulations and how we can best address some of these. Brooke did some really good research into drone activity in Kentucky and some of the things that are not permitted. One of them is flying over critical infrastructure. Couldn't fly over City Hall. A critical infrastructure, I think, would be SD1. I don't know if that's tank necessarily, but we need time to investigate these things. So unfortunately, it's last minute, and I apologize for that, but we've provided you with an ordinance this evening that declares the moratorium. I was hoping Brooke could read that so that you have time to digest it a little bit. And then, of course, you would need to decide if you want to take action on that or if you want us to move in another direction in terms of how we address this in your zoning code.
Another question, probably may answer too soon. Under the areas that they couldn't fly over, is that an FAA requirement?
It's a Kentucky statute.
That's a statute?
Now, let me kind of jump back just a little bit. So drone use, both residentially, privately, and commercially by businesses, is permitted in the state of Kentucky by statute, except the use of drones that result in an invasion of privacy. That's squarely within the Kentucky statute. As long as you comply with a portion of the FAA 14 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 107, which is about a 25-page list of things you can't do or must do. As long as you comply with those, by Kentucky statute, you can operate the drone in Kentucky, both as a private resident, private individual, and as a business. There's a separate statute in Kentucky that has a laundry list of things that are considered infrastructure, key infrastructure, that by Kentucky statute, you cannot fly a drone over. There is a note here I see that Jill included in the packet that said that the PDS attorney expressed some reluctance in buying into the moratorium. I spoke with the folks at KLC, and they said, one, the city may regulate, or has the ability to regulate, as long as you don't run afoul of the FAA requirements, which of course are going to take precedent, and that a moratorium is appropriate as a short-term fix to allow the necessary time to study and specifically to put into place the zoning requirements, which we don't have. So notwithstanding this note, KLC, and by the way, this is such a gray issue that PDS reached out to KLC, and when I reached out, they said, oh yeah, we heard from PDS too. Let me check with the person who did it, both people within the municipal law portion of KLC. So we're good in doing this, but there are so many moving parts that we simply need the time to do it. And it's not a no, and quite frankly, I don't think it would be a no given the Kentucky statutes that are in place, but certainly you all are entitled.
When you say a no, you mean a permanent no.
That's right.
Because this isn't temporary there.
This is temporary, it's just 100
Yeah, I'm just trying to-
6 months.
Trying to level set for people watching it from home. So just a little backstory on this. I think everyone on council knows this, and I've tried to share this information with you guys. You know, we had someone from Walmart reach out to me with what I would describe as a vague email about some exciting new technology, which led to some conversations. This came up in the conversations. Since then, and again, if you haven't checked your email in the last day or so, you know, I reached out to the mayor of Florence and the mayor of Alexandria, where there are other large Walmarts like this one, and asked them if they've been contacted, and they both had indicated, as far as they know, no. So I shared with them what I knew, and then, you know, at the last mayor's group meeting, which was hosted here, I just brought this up, threw it out for everyone that was there that day so other folks would be aware, because obviously, with a 5-mile radius around that store, I mean, that covers just about every community, at least in Kent County. So, you know, and various people have expressed various concerns about this. Since then, Walmart has reached out again and wanted to meet with me and Jill, and I basically said, I'm not interested in meeting until council meets again, and if you want to come talk to us, you need to come to a meeting, because at the end of the day, I mean, 4 of you are going to make this decision. My opinion is not really all that relevant, and, you know, I'm not a big fan of this idea to begin with. So that said, I pretty much said, yeah, I'm not interested in any kind of private meetings or anything. If you have something to say, if you have something to share, whatever, you need to come to a council meeting. So that's kind of where we left it with them. I don't know if they got back to you since then, Jill.
They have not, no.
So anyhow, I just want to give you guys a little bit more backstory. Again, I forwarded you some of the emails that I shared with other mayors and so forth. And
Point of clarification on this. Do we need to amend the agenda to include this for the first reading, or is it because it's on the agenda for unfinished business? Does that suffice?
So in my opinion, we amend the agenda because it's the mayor's preference. I don't know that it is necessarily a requirement to do this. Now, I have identified the drone issue on the agenda, but I didn't specifically identify that there is.
That's fine.
I'm going to assume, since it's on there, we don't need to amend it again to cover this. But Brooke, if you don't,
No, I don't think so. I think only when there's a special need called, you have to have a specific
So
identified.
without getting too far into the weeds on this, but is 180 days enough? I don't think that's enough, but maybe it is. I mean, I guess PDS staff is working on it behind the scenes.
They're working with Walmart and they're working with KLC. And then when I spoke with KLC, they said they had reached out to their Georgia counterparts because Georgia's apparently dealt with this issue a lot, and we're hoping to hear back from Georgia. So there's a lot of people working on this from a lot of different angles. I suspect Walmart, in concept, will not like a moratorium. It's not
Pretty sure they won't.
It's not a no, though, and it's not necessarily going to take 6 months to put regulations in place and do a text amendment to get it done, honestly, Bernie.
And we're not doing it to completely stop it, but we have to make sure we have all the regulations in place. I mean, I think.
Yeah, we just don't have anything in our zoning code that currently addresses it, and it's such a new.
But see, and I guess because this thing being new, in my opinion, we don't really need to get involved, in my opinion. It's what I said to PDS at the PDS meeting, with the FAA guidelines. We don't really need to even involve ourselves with that. To me, this is a simple zoning use, like we regulate drive-throughs at stores, restaurants. If you look at the sexually oriented businesses, we've regulated them to certain zone districts only. There are certain uses that are within certain zones. And I think that that's the approach that this needs to be. Is this an appropriate use to add to the text within our retail environment zone. Because if you add it within that retail environment zone, we're now permitting every retail store within the city to do the exact same thing. And I think we need to, if we permit this, I think it has to be within a certain zone. The other thing I wanted to follow up on was that Walmart is within that development agreement and a settlement agreement. And that thing got involved with the deliveries, all that kind of stuff and I'm just wondering, that's a legal settlement. Did you look into it?
I have asked that question multiple times. Jill and I have, on a couple of occasions, gone through all of the materials from that Walmart settlement. We found the settlement, and the settlement is referenced in the order when the case was resolved.
Sure.
But the critical document that was referenced in the settlement is this amended Phase 1 development plan that was incorporated into the settlement, and we can't put our hands on, nobody seems to be able to find that. And, you know,
I guess they lost that in their data loss.
PDS does not have that, and I'm assuming that's exactly what happened on their data losses.
How about Mr. Archive Adam
It's a possibility.
I
might have
it. Yeah, I have Adam's records. He's given them to me, so we can certainly look through them and see them. But so far, we've not found anything.
even
Well, I think
if
it has to be at least,
I agree.
because it's a legal settlement of a court case that Walmart's permitted to be
Wouldn't
there.
some court
It's
have it?
got to be in the court document
Well,
somewhere.
maybe,
That's what I was-
except it's only referenced in the order. I mean, I've seen the order and I've seen the settlement agreement. Maybe it just references this amended Phase 1. I even said to Jill, I don't know what would be wrong with saying, hey, Walmart, get us a copy of that. We can't find ours. I mean, Jill's like, well, then that's telling them that we don't have it. Well, I don't really care about that. I'm just trying to
We've
get my
now
hands
just
on
told
it.
everybody we don't have it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Going back to the zoning side of this thing, I think if we look at it strictly from a zoning and a use standpoint, just like we do with drive-throughs, you do car deliveries, whatever it is permitted, walk-up windows for donuts or something like that, Really?
He's really on a roll tonight.
I mean, I'm just saying that I think that particular use has to be looked at as a separate use within a certain zone. And I don't have any idea, all the time I've been on zoning, why that would not be permitted.
And one of the things that Brooke and I talked about yesterday when we met is we think this should be a conditional, I think this should be a conditional use, not a permitted use. So maybe it's something that you allow in your highway-oriented commercial business zone as a conditional use, but there's going to be some additional regulations.
It's dangerous too, because then you're letting Board of Adjustments make a call on every little thing. I think we ought to make it a permitted use within a specific zone, and if they want to do drone deliveries, go do it in that particular zone. That's my.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all. I mean, that was just my thought. A conditional use, in my opinion, seemed safer, but I can certainly go any way you want me to with that.
So if we can't get it done in 180, can we extend this?
I think it could, but what KLC was clear, I mean, the moratorium is just a temporary, give us some time.
I agree.
I would think, Bernie, honestly, that it should take 6 months if they actually if everybody gets their heads together and figures it out. And I feel comfortable that this council and Dave could tell Walmart if they come to a presentation, this is just giving us time, we may not even need that much time. And I do want to clarify though, because Jill said this is a moratorium on delivery via drone. This is a moratorium on the use of drones, use of operation, and the acceptance, processing, and approval of applications regarding the use and operation of drones, with certain exceptions, which include if law enforcement gets a warrant, they can do it. If law enforcement determines that there is an imminent threat of death or a serious injury, you can do it. If a person is operating their drone over their own property with the owner's consent, which is going to cover just about everything else, that's okay. But I don't think, this is just so you're clear, as we are, if we read this tonight, it's not just the use of drones for delivery, it's the use and operation and the processing of applications for use and operation of all drones, with designated exceptions.
Yes, I'm just trying to pigeonhole this into delivery, but he is correct. That is exactly how it is.
We can do it that way, but it's not that way tonight.
Does this technically limit them from creating the space
to do it from, or just the fact that they can't do the actual flying part?
They're not going to be able to get any permits to do, in my opinion. Is that yours, Brooke?
Right. That was something that Jill and I determined to add yesterday, was the acceptance of the application, processing and approval.
So what about those businesses, say a realtor? Realtors are using drones all the time, flying around. They don't own the property. They're coming to my house. They're gonna, they do an aerial.
Right.
You've got them. You've got
They would
roofers.
have permission from the
They would have
property.
permission theoretically from the owner to take an aerial, drone view above the owner's property. And one of the things says also, I didn't mention, the city council can authorize the use of a drone for a specific event. So let's say, I pointed out, I've got a client that does wedding photos and often uses a drone to get creative angles. Well, that person is clearly using that in a place where the event space can say, you have the authority to do
Within
that.
your own personal property, you're not leaving.
Right, over and above your own property.
But you don't own the property. The way you explained it, you said, for personal use on personal property. This is commercial use on personal property. In my opinion, if I'm selling my house, I bring in ABC Realtor, to sell my house. That to me, that's.
Well, it says with the owner's consent, so the owner doesn't necessarily have to be the operator. So again, in the case of the wedding photographer who's going to an event, people renting out space, people rent the space and say, hey, we're going to have a drone operator take, part of this wedding photography and get permission. So really, but if you only said delivery, then it's not broad enough, I don't believe. So.
Most of the roofers are pulling it off of Google Earth anyway, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they are. Google
So I'm
Earth.
pretty sure.
A lot of them are going to drones because Google Earth, they can't get close enough. So look at a drone and get close to your roof.
Mine, the ones I'm making, they have an app that goes on Google Earth and they just.
Well, you're dealing with a different size building than the.
Maybe,
But,
but, yeah.
Okay, so
So what do we want to do?
I would need that. If you want to move forward, I can read it.
okay.
Yeah, there's no vote on right on first reading.
There's no vote on the first reading.
You usually do.
Yes, we typically do.
So one other thing, this came up in a neighborhood social event this weekend. One of the gentlemen there happened to be a pilot, and he was very concerned with this because he said and I don't know the number of the runway there, so I'm not going to say it, but he said that is in a direct line. Walmart is in a direct line of one of the runways out on the airport. He was concerned. He said,
Well, I'll give you an even more intriguing issue, not to go way deep in the weeds on this, but the FAA Part 107 that is referenced in the statute, among other things, has a requirement that the operator of the drone maintain all-time visual line of sight. That cannot be what Walmart intends to do, deliver from their location to my house.
Unless it has a camera on it.
Right, well, in that, I'm not sure that visual line of sight includes camera, if you read, so that's one of those issues. Now,
But they also
Walmart,
get a variance from that.
you can get a waiver of that requirement, but it then says you can't get a waiver if what you're using it for, the FAA will not grant a waiver if what you're using it for is the carrying of cargo of another person for compensation, which is, it seems to me, exactly what delivery by drone via retail places. So, another example of we don't have enough information, I don't think, for city council to make a decision on this yet. There's also just, there's a potential fine and injunctive relief and recovery of costs and fees built into it if you have to go to court to enforce it, just so you know it's there.
I mean, not to muddy the water, but in theory, I mean, I can see where it might be positive in keeping from like Amazon trucks from parking in the middle of the highway, or some unmarked car at 2 a.m. from some guy with no identification and street clothes dropping a package off on your doorbell. Your ring doorbell going off at 2 and 3 in the morning. I mean, some of those people you think, oh God, I got to get my gun. Who's this? Somebody's ready to rob me. I mean, that's what you think. But so it might eliminate some of that on a positive side. But it's something, again, we have to study and see. what it is. I mean, I'm in favor of that. Jill knows my flavor on moratorium, but
I mean, this is all just about it.
I mean, you want a moratorium on everything, don't you,
I
Brandon?
love it, that's something
Just a critical evaluation.
I mean, in general, you're a fan of moratoriums, right?
Jill and I went at it, what, 15 years ago?
It's been a long time ago.
So, I mean, are we getting to a point where we should just let Brooke read it and let it just follow over there? Why don't you,
I mean, if you have the number?
So the first one is 01. I'm sorry, it's the first of the 2026.
What's 01? All right, this is ordinance 01-2026, an ordinance of the city of Fort Wright in Kenton County, Kentucky, imposing a moratorium barring the use and operation of unmanned aircraft, drones, within and above the city boundaries, and the acceptance, processing, and approval of applications related to the use and operation of unmanned aircraft, drones, for a period of 6 months.
okay,
I'll make a motion to approve that.
motion by Weber, second.
Is there a motion on first reading?
I mean, we typically vote.
We usually do.
And what would be the reason not to?
I'll second.
All right, second, Wessels, any additional discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to bring up a point or two.
Fire away.
I mean, on that PowerPoint they sent, that, beautiful pictures and all that, it said repeatedly, no cameras, no cameras, no cameras. And here it says they're gonna have cameras. I mean, it's just a terrible way to start.
Well, I
That's all I
don't
know.
know.
We knew they were gonna have cameras.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not entirely sure how it could work without
Without a
cameras,
camera.
because,
Yeah,
you
we
know,
brought all
you're
that
going
up.
to need proof of delivery concerns.
But, your first step into discussions with us, you can tell a big fat lie, and it just doesn't sit well. That's all I'm gonna say. More to come later.
Okay.
They may have, my understanding or the way I took it was whoever wrote that up didn't understand that maybe they weren't going to record it. They may have cameras for the guy who's running it to get to where it's got to go and get back, but there's no recording facility on it.
I generated that statement, and that came from a conversation that I had with their government relation, Walmart's government relations official, and I specifically asked about cameras. Now, whether he didn't know and wasn't sure about that because I wasn't his area of expertise, but what he relayed to me, and my interpretation of it was clear that there were no cameras.
All right.
I think we would be remiss too if we didn't just briefly identify that one of the reasons we identified some concern was that drones are increasingly being used for hostile military action and terrorist attacks. And I think that we would be remiss if we didn't take that into some consideration.
Well, and they're noisy and sometimes fall out of the sky.
Noise
Yeah.
complaints, all kinds of issues in terms
Could
of.
packages fall off the drone and hit someone or hit a car and cause a wreck? I mean, we don't know.
And
We don't
insurance
know.
requirements for those things,
Yeah.
we do not know.
I did do some research on this about the program they rolled out in Atlanta. They had like in 3 stores in Atlanta. Well, they're doubling the number of those this year. So apparently it's successful in Atlanta.
We could get if we could get from them the cities that they're doing it already at, then we could contact cities and see how they're doing.
Well, I think PDS is doing that.
Well, I would hope so,
Yeah.
but I would double check it.
Yeah, they had a couple of them, I'll check. I know Atlanta and Dallas were 2 of them, and I believe there were some Southern
There
California.
may, like I said, there may be more.
Yeah.
We knew the number. that
Well,
it is.
and, just to be clear, they told me they're rolling this out in Michigan and Ohio too, so they're coming certainly, so.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Wessels?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Mayor, from a timing standpoint, I would recommend that you move forward with a special meeting for the next caucus to have the second reading of this. Is that what you envision?
I'm good with that. That works for you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that, reduces the duration.
What days, I don't know.
I believe it's the 15th of April.
I won't be here, but that's all right.
And we'll have to make sure that we have a quorum, but it should be April 15th.
Tax days at yourself.
Okay. Moving right along then, qualified manufacturing home regulation requirements.
Yes, so this is one of the ordinances that I had Brooke work on, and unfortunately failed to send to you today, and I apologize for that. We were busy with year and stuff and some other issues. But he does have it prepared. If you remember at our last caucus meeting, PDS came and presented on qualified manufacturing homes and your requirement per the KRS to incorporate that language into the zoning code. So he's prepared that ordinance. We can have a first reading this evening, give you time to look at it. We can delay it till the next meeting till we have more time to review it. It's certainly your pleasure. I apologize for not disseminating that information.
It's almost something we have to do.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
But I'd still like to take a look at it.
Yeah, of course.
And just so you know, at the last meeting, PDS showed us the exact language that was in the packet, and this ordinance literally attaches what you looked at the last meeting as the text amendment, and so the body of the ordinance simply takes what you've done and sticks it to it. So you are comfortable and know what you're looking at.
But it's not critical. So, while it's nice if we can do a first reading, it's not critical. If it waits another month, we can add it to the next agenda and move forward.
Margie, you want to wait?
I think we should.
Okay.
I just want to see it and look at it before.
We'll add that to the next agenda.
Jill, if you have a special meeting, you could do the first reading. The same.
If you want to add it.
That would speed it up.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
All right. So that will be our plan for that. Then moving along to new business. Why don't we just go ahead and get this proclamation out of the way? So we have a proclamation here, basically around the Weiler development that'll be going in and the positive benefit to the community as a result of that. So you want to read this thing, Brooke? Right? You're busy. I'll just do it.
I'm happy to do it.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
So, again, my thought process is to pass this evening, and then it will be presented to the Weiler Automotive family tomorrow. Whereas the City of Fort Wright has long been committed to fostering economic vitality, community pride, and strategic redevelopment along key corridors within the city, and whereas the properties rich in history currently known as Days Inn and Atlas Fitness, located in 1937 and 1935 Dixie Highway respectively, have served the community in years past but are now poised for transformation. And whereas the demolition of these structures represents not an end, but the beginning of a bold new vision that will bring renewed synergy, investment, and opportunity to the Dixie Highway corridor. And whereas the Fort Wright City Council recognizes the importance of thoughtful redevelopment in strengthening the local economy, enhancing the visual character of the community, and creating new opportunities for residents and businesses alike. And whereas the city proudly acknowledges and thanks the Weiler Automotive family for their vision, commitment, and investment in acquiring and planning the redevelopment of this important site, which also includes the former Infinity dealership. And whereas projects such as this requires collaboration between many entities, and we wish to acknowledge our partnership with the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the Kenton County Fiscal Court, Planning and Development Services of Kenton County, and the Northern Kentucky Catalytic Fund. And whereas this project marks a continuation of an exciting new chapter for the City of Fort Wright, one defined by growth, innovation, progressively lower taxes, enhanced services, and continued progress. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Fort Wright City Council hereby announces and commemorates the demolition of the former Days Inn and Atlas Fitness buildings as a significant milestone in the ongoing revitalization, maturation, and evolution of the Dixie Highway corridor. Be it further proclaimed that the city invites residents, business leaders, and community partners to join in a ceremonial demolition event to celebrate this important occasion on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, beginning at 10 a.m. at 1937 Dixie Highway. In witness whereof, the Fort Wright City Council hereby present this proclamation in recognition of progress, partnership, and the promising future ahead for our community. This proclamation has the full effect and force of the law under the mayor's signature this evening.
All right.
Well done.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Wes, second. Collins? All right. Any additional discussion? All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wessels?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Up next, Municipal Order 01-2026, disposing of surplus property.
Yes, we have Municipal Order 126, and ultimately we are asked to dispose of 2 Chargers. They're 2016 and a 2019 all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive Chargers. The VIN numbers identified. Surplus vehicles from the new ones we acquired last year.
Make a motion to accept.
All right, motion by Witt, second.
I'll second.
Second by Weber. Any additional discussion?
Shouldn't we keep one of them for our cops program, Council on Patrol?
It's
It's a
only-
legit group.
Only if you agree to use the PA system in it to sing My Old Kentucky Home while you drive home.
Oh, he's gonna have Bad Boys playing.
Yeah,
That's
he
good.
wants to
Bad
sing.
Boys, Bad
Oh,
Boys.
yeah, bad boys. We had to cut a hole in the roof so I could take it.
Keep the older one then.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Wessels?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Waddle?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Next up, we have the Law Enforcement Navigator Program update.
Yes, this is an issue I'd like to request that we table to the next agenda. Unfortunately, we're in a back and forth phase of document preparation for the interlocal agreement, and it is not complete. So Stacy Tapke's office was going to prepare some of that. They asked that Brooke has not prepared
The
some of that.
resolution
So-
approving is ready.
Yes,
Did I get that? You just don't
the
have
back
the
end of the documents are not ready, and that's back on your plate. So we'll need to move forward with that.
All right, and then last under new business tonight, legislative updates, discussions, and/or actions.
Yes, so Monday evening, I attended the Municipal Government League of Northern Kentucky's meeting, and KCO and KLC were both there and gave some updates on legislation. There'll be more information obviously coming. They're getting ready to go into veto days, finishing up the session. Gracie from the league sent some information about various bills that were still out there. One today was, of course, House Bill, I think it was House Bill 9 that they were concerned about. They've asked for some action on that. I forwarded that to you. It's in your emails. Ultimately, I'll give you an update on all of the bills that you were in support of and opposition to. The chicken one is the one that comes to mind most frequently. That one does not appear that it's going to pass the House or pass the legislature. So there are a couple things that will come out of it that will be to our benefit, I'm sure some to our detriment. One of them they thought was waiting for the governor's signature was the bill that increases the bidding threshold from $40,000 to $50,000 and excludes the acquisition of cruisers for the police department from the requirements. So there are going to be some things that are beneficial, but I'm sure we're going to see some things come out of there that are detrimental. And one may be these changes to short-term rentals, Airbnbs, that was in the Senate and they were dealing with today. So I'll keep you posted as more information becomes available. But if you could kind of keep checking over the next 24 hours what's going to happen if we need to reach out and reach into the phones of our legislators and senators.
Would the 11.57% be applied to resource officers if an ex-police officer is hired as a resource officer?
I do not know that answer.
Okay, because he's still an officer to be a resource officer.
So I guess one question I have for all of you on council, you're all getting these alerts from KLC, correct? Because typically I'll forward them just to make sure you'll see what they're saying. And, to the extent you're concerned about any of these things, obviously you can reach out on your own, and I would encourage you to do that, at least to our two legislators, Representative Dietz and Senator McDaniel.
And Jay, just to answer your question more clearly, I think that the notification that I put in your packet about the retired police officer rehires, if you remember when we talked about supporting the bill to rehire retired firefighters, we only were in favor of that if the bill language stayed the same. I suspect this is a result of changes to that bill. They were trying to add some language in there that changed how we handled contracts for rehired police officers. If that occurred, then we were going to oppose the bill. So I think that's what this is going. I haven't had a look. I just got this today. Haven't had a chance to really look at it, but I believe that is the ramification of the one
Just
bill.
my personal opinion is we would oppose it because there's a lot of schools are hurting for dollars, and if they got to pay more money for a resource officer, that may not allow that resource officer to be there.
And typically, resource
It's not
officers in some communities are retired officers who were retired and are now working in the school system.
Okay.
Well, and then also like the Airbnb thing, right? We got an alert from them on the Airbnb legislation. So, again, I would encourage you all, especially as we wind down here in the last few days of this session, to keep an eye out for these emails from KLC. Again, we can take some sort of action here formally tonight. This is a legislative meeting. You all can reach out on your own, whatever you want to do.
And one of the, and I probably have the bill numbers messed up, but I believe it was Senate Bill 9 and Senate Bill 112. One of them we opposed pertaining just to short-term rentals and Airbnbs. 11th hour of the session, they have added the language about Airbnbs to a different bill, which I think was Senate Bill 112. They've essentially added this language from Senate Bill 1. Senate Bill 9, I believe. It was a housing bill in general. They were trying to push through the verbiage on the short-term rentals, and I think it got added to the bill.
I mean,
I might have the House.
I'll just read
numbers
you what they
correct.
said. I have the email here. There's an update to the prior action alert. The House of Representatives just passed the amended version of SB 9 that contains the preemption language on short-term rentals by a vote of 71 to 21. If you've not yet done so, please contact your senator immediately and urge them to vote no on agreeing to the House-approved changes to SB 9.
So I had the burn numbers reversed, and my understanding is we opposed Senate Bill 112, which was about short-term rentals. They have inserted that language into Senate Bill 9, I believe.
And then this goes on to say, the amendment broadly preempts local governments from regulating short-term rentals. Among other provisions, the amendment blocks local zoning authority over short-term rentals, including the use of density, location, and spacing ordinances applicable to short-term rentals, prohibits the use of conditional use permits, invalidates and prohibits ordinances that regulate the use of a short-term rental in any residential zone, and it goes on. I mean, I think in my mind, this just boils down to a simple home rule question, right? And why do we want the state to tell us how we, now, I think, we generally take a light touch on this sort of thing compared to other communities, but still, I don't think it makes sense for residents of Wright to basically just allow these things to do anything they want.
So, and just so you know, so I got the information today at 1:43. It was Senate Bill 9, and it is 60 pages long. It's just honest.
Well, you got to read it to know what's in it, right? Right. You have to pass it to know what's in it. You got to pass it to know what's in it. Obviously, we're following the Nancy Pelosi approach to this.
I looked up House Bill 75 today, the property tax thing, and it said it was stuck in the committee of committees. What the hell is that?
Well, that's like turtles all the way down. It's a recursive committee of committees. You have to have a committee to have a committee to have a committee, right? So
Well, no, what it is when they get a bill, that's the first thing to stick it into, is a committee of committees, and that's run by the top people of the Senate or the House.
that's run by the Star Chamber.
Okay, and then they from there then take it out of there and put it, if they want to move it forward, they take it out and put it in a regular committee. So everything that comes to them first goes into the committee of committees, and then they decide where it's going to go.
So on these two particular items, I mean,
Clear smile.
the rehire thing, I think, is something we definitely, anything that restricts our ability to hire with the cost savings that come along with these rehires doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why we wouldn't come out in opposition to that. And, my take on the Airbnbs is the same. I don't know why we would want the state to tell us that we can't regulate these things in any way. I mean, what's next? Are they going to tell us that we can't, what else can't we regulate within the city limits of Fort Wright? And, my perspective on this is simple. If you live here and you don't like whatever regulations we have, you can always not vote for us again or run for these positions yourself. I don't think we need the state to be trying to restrict our ability to protect our residents' property values and their peace. Right now, thankfully, I don't think we have a lot of Airbnbs here, and we haven't had a lot of problems as a result. And again, I tend to be of the mind that If you want to use your property as an Airbnb within reason, what business is that of mine if you're not causing anyone else any problems? I know not everyone necessarily agrees with my approach on this. But at the same time, I don't want the state telling me I can't do anything about it. You know? So, you know, what are we... Obviously, we can all individually reach out. I would encourage each of you to do that. You know, send a one-sentence email or whatever. I oppose this or that, but we could do something here tonight.
And KLC has indicated in one of their correspondence today that there is no time to write and send something. That if you want to post it, you need to be texting your representatives and asking them to avoid that. So we, you know, obviously got some contact numbers there. We could probably walk through them.
And obviously, you could send an email like right now.
Yeah,
or,
you could send an email.
10 minutes after this meeting is over, because it appears to be a short meeting today.
But time is definitely of the essence.
Anything else anyone is aware of that you're concerned about or that we would want to take up here tonight? I mean, the good news is the session is almost over.
Any update on the one that Wall text us to oppose, the 4%?
I don't know what the status is. I mean, yeah, we obviously opposed it. I'm not, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure. I mean, we could try to hit the LRC website and see what, I think that was House Bill 4 or something?
Yeah, if I had a number, I can check
The
it.
one, Walt's,
Yeah, 4% on-
liquor there, the 4% tax on.
Heading looked like it was gonna pass.
Yeah, that's the last.
It was looking like it was going to pass, and then it got held up, and they were doing some language modification, and I thought it was stuck in committee. But let me find the bill number, and I will.
I'm going to see if I can find the email from Donnie at Walt's, because he had emailed me about it.
Yeah, and I sent Donnie a response to that bill. Sorry. Was it House Bill 9? It was House Bill 612. So House Bill 612 was introduced to the House and committee on committees, and on the 18th it went to licensing, occupations, and administrative regulations. So it does not look like it has moved forward.
All right, well, so what do we want to do here, folks? Just everybody reach out on their own, assuming that they...
Yeah.
I think that's fine. All right. Well, if that's the case, unless any one of you has something else you want to bring up on that legislative front, that's all of our new business. So that gets us into committee reports. You got anything, Margie? Jay?
No.
All right. Jill, CAO report, got anything specific you want to bring up?
Yeah, other than tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone.
Good that you put that together, Michelle. That was pretty cool.
Thanks. It's going to be a great event. I think it's going to be well attended.
Carrie, what do you got for us?
Just in addition to the report I submitted, it was there for the fact, I've just been working on the days in projects and items that we're using for that.
Okay. Questions for Carrie? No, you got anything?
I've got nothing.
All right.
Can we get an update on the status of the unpaid taxes and the liquor license issue?
Yes. So there, and you should have gotten an email that I sent to you. So the one has paid their taxes, and their license is current. The other one, their license is, they're still operational. They've not paid taxes. They have paid and brought current their occupational licensing accounts, but the complaint still stands at the state with the local ABC office, and they have been cited to a court hearing. My court hearing is in April,
Okay.
and they'll have a hearing, and they have requested that the liquor license from the state be revoked. And, I'm assuming that they will show up and attend that in some manner to dispute that. but they're required to do that with legal counsel. I've not heard if they've responded to that. They've made no contact with us about the local license or about paying the bill. So still pending. They also have some issues in addition to the tax concerns with their lease. So my understanding is that they were not necessarily in compliance with their lease requirements for the issuance of their liquor license to begin with. So there are some questions with that as part of that complaint that the state has filed also.
Are they still open?
They are still open and they're allowed to continue to operate and sell until a final decision has been made by the board, the court. I'm not sure who the appeal is made to.
But if they're in violation of our ordinance,
They're still, as long as they have their state license. So if they do not have a local license, we report them to the state for non-compliance at the local level.
Right.
And then the state takes the follow-up action to follow up with them for non-compliance with their state license. And that's what's happened. They've conducted an investigation, they've sent that to their legal team, and the legal team has cited them to review.
I mean, if they haven't paid their taxes, they're in violation of our ordinance. I don't see how the state could even consider any kind of argument they would have.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I have never been part of that before. I've never had a business that was not compliant in that fashion. So I don't know what the state will do in regards to that. I think their bigger concern is going to be lease requirements and them not being in compliance with the lease requirements for their liquor license.
It just revokes their liquor license. It doesn't revoke their occupational occupational
It
license.
just revokes the liquor license, but if they can't sell liquor, that is entirely what they are.
I know, but shouldn't we consider it that revoke their occupational license as well? Should we look at the ordinance to add that?
Do you remember?
We did look at it, and I've got that research.
Okay.
We did look at it. I think that was maybe one, Bernie, that my report to Joe was we have to make a revision to that if we want to go do that. But I'll look at it again.
Yeah, because we have a business that's not paying their taxes and they're not, I mean, we should not give them an occupational license to perform in the city.
Yeah, I think that the I have to go back and look, Bernie, but I
Yeah,
think
just
that
a
the
thought, I
ordinance
mean-
passed just said that we can revoke the
I
liquor
mean,
license.
just take a look at it. Just-
We'll look at it and
all right,
see.
That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to say that hearing is the 15th of April, but I'll have to go back and look. My initial concern was whether or not I have to be there to testify for it. They've not sent me anything, but I was the one who filed the complaint and provided some of the information, so I'm not sure about that.
I mean, my take on it is if we have the authority, if they're not paying their taxes, we have the authority, we should shut them down. Period.
I do not believe you have the authority currently. You could maybe establish that through some different policies, but I think based upon what we have in place now with revoke the liquor licensing, and I think that's pretty much all you can do.
So what's our normal sort of procedure when there's businesses that aren't paying their taxes,
So, are you,
just in general?
are we talking about occupational licensing taxes, or are we talking about
these
property
delinquent
taxes?
charges that are listed under the delinquent tax report?
Okay. So, I'm sorry, let me look there. So, those are just property taxes, except for the bottom half, which would be the tangible taxes, thank you, the tangible taxes. So those get referred eventually to the legal department, and Brooke does follow up with them. Some of them we think we can't collect on, and we've talked about that a couple times. Ultimately, that's the next step. So this list that Nyoka has put together, she just finished today, an updated list of what will go to Brooke, and she's emailed that to me. So he'll go and move forward with collections on
So that's a
these.
different list than this?
That is, no,
I
There's probably-
updated the delinquent charges today for the first of the month, and I posted all the updates under the tax section of the
Yeah.
website. So
and
that
we
was
had
posted
one
just for.
person, we had one person who came off this list that I provided in their packet, I think,
Yes.
too. So,
So that was
I think
just
there's at least
updated.
one removed.
Okay, thank you.
Now, to answer the other part of your question, if they're, again, these are property taxes primarily, if they're not paying occupational licensing taxes, or we think they don't have a license, we report them to the county, and then the county follows up with sending them a letter and ultimately takes action, I'm hoping, on collection of those taxes and the filings. And that's what we contract with them to do.
Any other questions? Chief Shuey?
Really just a thank you to the Wilder Group. I think I said it the last time, but we just wrapped up using their buildings up there for training. We got a good solid month of training out of them, and I think 5 departments were able to get in on some of that training. So, we don't have a lot of buildings that are coming in for Wright and have the opportunity to do some live evolutions and things, and it really worked out well. So, just a thank you to the Wilder family of dealers.
Nice.
Any other questions for Chief Shuey? Follow?
That was going to be my first comment. Also, we were able to get Northern Kentucky Regional SWAT, Florence SWAT, and then our department went in there a couple of times and did a handful of things. So I'd like to say thank you to them for allowing us to do that. And then I wanted to touch on the speed sign. That was a semi-permanent speed sign that was on Dixie. I decided to move that to Amsterdam Road. I felt like we weren't really getting there wasn't really any requests for data on Dixie Highway. And I felt like it was going to do a better service over there. So we're going to try it out there for a while. I want to thank Public Works for helping us get that moved.
I'd like to apologize for all the 4 meetings that you're going to see back.
And then just wanted to touch on the women's self-defense class that's coming up. I apologize, I don't have the dates. Maybe I do. But we have 30 women signed up for the class in April, which is going to be April 22nd and April 29th. There's 2 sessions. And then we have 100 more that are have requested to take the class that we're waiting to create more classes. So the space that we're using is the Kenton County Detention Center's training room, which is big, but you can't hold a class like this with 100 people at once. It takes a lot. There's a lot of hands-on. So we're trying to break it down. We think the most manageable size is 30. So we're going to try and do it in increments of that. And so probably for the next couple of months, through the summer, we'll have several more classes. And the scam fraud class, we're going to try and get one of those going in May as well.
And I want to thank both departments for the Easter Bunny visit over the weekend. It's good feedback from that. Both of your departments, the police and fire department, facilitated that. So thank you very much. I think it's on.
Yep. That's all I got. Any questions for Chief Caldwell?
Do you get feedback? Are you going to get feedback after those self-defense classes?
Yes, we always do. We do a little survey questionnaire at the end of it, and then we compile a contact list for them, and then we use that to make the class better.
Yeah.
We do that every time.
Jeff, what do you got?
Yes, sir. Just an update on the road project. Water District started main replacement on Elder this week. They're probably 2/3 of the way down Elder as of this morning, and they'll move over to Hazelwood. So progress is happening over there. We've got a pre-construction meeting with our contractor on April 14th. They won't get started, obviously, until after July 1, but ball's rolling. So that's all I got.
Questions? Just real quick, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
I don't even know what I was going to say. Have we put the signs up yet?
Pardon?
My signs that say street project?
Not for that, no, not yet. I can get in there after the Water District is.
I mean, it's not critical.
Yeah, I don't, it's kind of tight in there, I don't want to beat it up.
Any questions for Jeff?
Jeff and I are going to meet and talk about tree replacements over by Volunteer Park, which is this oak trees down.
Right.
Cool.
Can I do that? Let's talk about that for just a minute, because that's a project that we've been trying to get them scheduled, and I think we're able to finally do that. They're starting next week.
Yeah, I spoke to him a few weeks ago. He had April 7th as the date. I left him a message today. I haven't heard back from him yet today.
I had
So.
one of the residents from Monticello reached out about the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I called him just to make sure he was on schedule still. I have not heard back from him.
Any other questions for Jeff? Brooke, you got anything from legal?
Special announcements, looks like we don't really have any other than the event tomorrow for the beautiful demolition of the former hotel and
What's the attire and all that?
We were saying that we thought it would be nice to wear a Port Wright logo on casual items because it's a construction site. So I would not recommend a shirt and tie or a suit jacket.
I can tell you, I'm not planning to dress up. So.
I have a construction jacket and a hard hat for you to wear. So.
Do we have some? Oh, you do. Can I wear my own? Do we have some sledgehammers?
We do not have sledgehammers. We talked about that.
I bet we know somebody who can find you.
Yeah, we
in his current garage.
We though, we'll be issuing earplugs as part of the equipment because former Councilman Eglin lent us the train whistle. So we will be blowing the train around
whistle is not
as well as
exactly.
the signal.
Whistle is not an accurate description of this.
You might want to warn the rest of the cities.
We're going to be sounding that off. Everybody in town's going to know that it's the most.
Right before and after you sing My Old Kentucky Home, Bernie, we're going to blow the horn.
Right.
So.
I hope that don't become a thing you keep bringing up.
I hope that doesn't get dealt with.
Who's going to operate the train more?
So the mayor's going to give the signal. It's a chain. You know, it's a team effort. The mayor will give the signal. Lamar will give the signal to Blake, and Blake will play the horn. Because we had to place it far enough away because it's very loud.
You may tell people to put their fingers in their ears.
We have earplugs.
There are earplugs that will be issued with directions and a disclaimer.
I mean, we could fire it off out here in the front if you want to.
I heard he called me to open up my garage, and I was like, oh my God, is that thing right?
It's impressive to say the least.
Thought that would be a nice, clear signal to the operator that it was time to start.
Yeah, we'll also have some shirts that say I stayed at the Ramada and all I got was this lousy.
Everybody could have gotten that. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and parking is on site tomorrow, so.
I'm sorry I'm going to miss it, y'all. Represent us well.
And we'll save you some old bricks or whatever you want. Some of the weird meat we found is a big mistake.
Yeah.
I think there's probably still a pork chop down there that's now kind of dry aged after a month or so. Just now on the floor. Okay, and then also a reminder, Fort Wright Spring Cleanup Day is coming up April 18th. This is an opportunity to come out, meet your neighbors, beautify the community. 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'll have some lunch here for folks that show up. And, we'll provide all of the equipment, the garbage grabbers and the bags and the gloves and all that sort of stuff. So, we'd love to see a big turnout for this. How many bags did we collect last time, Margie? Do you remember offhand? It was a lot. It was a lot. I mean, we get a lot of garbage. We've taken it out doing this twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall.
This will be our 15th event.
It produces a lot of garbage, which is good because, again, the goal is to beautify the community, get to know your neighbors, and it's a great opportunity if you have high school students that need to earn service hours. Vince has got to get his last few service hours in here, so because, of course, like all my kids, he's waited till the last possible minute to do it. So. Again, that's here April 18th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it's on the website, it's on social media. We'll hit it a couple more times between now and then, but we'd love to see you come out and support that effort. And I think that is everything. Let me go back up here. Yeah.
118 bags last day.
Wow, 118 bags of trash. I mean, that's a lot of trash if you think about it, especially from a relatively small crew of people.
Yeah.
In a relatively small city. So.
And as of right now, the volunteers that manage I have a group of volunteers that handles some city streets on a regular basis, just in their neighborhoods. That group of people have already collected 43 bags of trash this year.
It would be nice if we didn't need to do this. People would stop throwing their trash out, but since that doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
It's probably the same people.
Probably. Yeah.
10 or 12 people would do it nonstop.
Margie, when they get a bag of trash, what do they do with it?
So it works out really great. So there's certain routes that we follow, and as they have a full bag of trash, they set it on the side, on the curb in the right of way. Public Works drives around and picks up those bags behind them, so you're not having to carry a full bag anywhere. And
All right.
Public Works keeps count then.
That's everything. Before we adjourn council, Margie, you got anything you want to add?
That's it.
Jason? Jay? Scott?
Do we have any update on the salt bin or the playground equipment?
Yes, the playground, the tot lot has been removed. We have been working with Verdantis on the design of the salt bin. We met with another company who does kind of a prefab building. We thought that might be a good fit. We had a meeting with them. We've been looking at some options and trying to design around the issue that salt creates with the deterioration of the building and door and frame and all that. So well underway. We've done and scheduled, we have met with PDS. We have scheduled or attempting to schedule the public facility review that's required as part of that. So that's moving forward. And then in terms of the playground structure, we do not have that any further at this point, but it is a top priority item.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So Marty and I were talking, we're probably going to put out a bid for site development, hopefully towards the end of April. And then,
For which site?
I'm sorry, for the salt storage. Get it,
Right.
yeah, everything, get dirt removed, get a pad down. And then that will move the process along quicker so that we can then put the bid out for the building.
Probably would need to know who's going to be coming in with what type of building if you're going to put the pad down. Yeah.
Right, yeah. The engineer, we've been talking about what we need to put down there,
Okay.
and we've had geotech done. So, yeah, we're moving on it. That should speed the process up, though. Instead of waiting to bid everything at once, we'll go ahead and get the site development done first.
I do want to say with the tot, I did speak to Mr. Longshore, who is a neighbor. We've spoken twice about the plan to construct a playground there. I sent him the image that we had.
We're mixing up two things here, right?
Yes,
This is a civic club now you're talking about.
yes.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry.
So, yeah, before we transition to that, I just so people at home understand, right? You know, we had this little park-like apparatus up here at the city building, the AKA tot lot. And again, just for folks who may not have all the details, for years, pretty much since I've been involved in this, which is now several decades worth, you know, we kept our salt at the state salt barn over the hill here. They've kind of changed the game on us, essentially wanted us to buy the salt through them. That would increase our costs. And also, you know, there are issues with access and stuff like that. So, you know, council wisely, I believe, made the decision to say, you know, we're not going to be beholden to them. We just need to have a place for this ourselves. And the decision was made to take the tot lot out there, and there were also concerns around the safety of that. Again, you have emergency vehicles moving around that parking lot all the time, potentially emergency response between the fire department and the police department, and kids playing in the area. You know, honestly, in retrospect, I'm not really sure how that ever made sense and why no one really ever said, like, does it really make sense to have kids playing in an area where you have emergency vehicles making emergency response out of there? I mean, it really probably never made sense. But nevertheless, so, you know, that's what we're talking about here for people watching from home, is ultimately the ability to control our own destiny, to make sure that we have the salt resources we need in the winter. Obviously, this past winter, we used a lot of salt. You know, it was critical a couple of times. And this allows us to, you know, essentially take on the responsibility ourselves, not be beholden to anyone else, and, you know, do this in a way where we can make sure that we're not only dealing with the safety of our roads during winter storms, but also, you know, better convenience for our residents. I think, you know, to the extent I get positive feedback about the city, it is most often in the winter and for the Public Works Department and the folks that support the Public Works Department, volunteers from police and fire and so forth to help. I mean, I think they do a great job, and obviously if we can reduce the amount of time it takes in transit to get the salt loaded and all that sort of stuff, because rather than us have to go over the hill to the salt barn and potentially wait in a line for the state trucks that are using it, we can just manage it here ourselves. So again, I know some people express concern about the park going away and so forth, but when you look at the big picture of it all, I think you not only have the reduced risk of someone being hurt as a result of kids playing at a site that probably never made sense, again, from a safety perspective, and then also the ability for us to reduce our costs and ultimately have complete and total control over this rather than be beholden to some other government agency that has their own interests first, which I understand. I'm not knocking them, but, this gives us the ability to control this ourselves. So that's just a little backstory on what we're talking about here if you haven't seen or heard this before. Then secondarily, kind of what Jill was leading into. So, we have this Fort Wright Civic Club property. Council has been talking about, while we're still trying to evaluate the overall park plan and what are we going to do with these different properties we have and buildings and so forth, there's been some conversation around, okay, since we're going to get rid of this one playground, let's at least potentially look at putting some sort of playground / play equipment in at the old Fort Wright Civic Club site. Right, so that's what Jill is talking about. Go ahead. It's kind of want to level set here so people understand we're not mixing these two things together.
Yes, and you always do a great job of explaining those things. So at the Fort Wright Civic Club, there's an adjacent property owner named Wright Longshore. We were concerned about his perception of the playground next door. He actually reached out to me before I could reach out to him. We've exchanged emails a couple times. I shared with him the plan that Marty shared with us, or Verdantis, our engineering group, shared with us, and indicated to him that you were very concerned about protecting his privacy through a berm and through fencing. He expressed that he was excited about a playground, but he also is concerned about the privacy of his home and would very much would appreciate the berm and a fencing or a combination of those being added. So he asked about coming to a meeting. I told him he's certainly more than welcome to. I think he just wanted to kind of share information as we continue along the process. I told him to stop to make contact with me again in another couple weeks, and I will continue to share plans with him as they evolve, but we don't have anything else at this moment. So I know at the last meeting we did talk about making contact with him, so that has been concluded.
He's been to a meeting.
Has he been to a meeting? I thought I had met with maybe his father-in-law previously, but I don't remember meeting him per se.
Yeah, he came, wanted to buy it.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to throw out there, these are public meetings, folks. You don't need permission to come to a meeting, right? It's open to the public. Anyone can come anytime to any meeting. You don't need to ask. You don't need permission. It's a public meeting. If you want to come on down, right? At first and third Wednesday of the month, 6 p.m. We'll be here. You're welcome to come anytime. And if you have insomnia, this could be an awesome cure for you to come and listen to me blather on about all of these fun topics like salt domes, and playground equipment, and tree replacement, all the other fun stuff that we talk about here.
Jeff, how big of a building are you looking at?
It's similar to a couple other cities close by that the company that we spoke with has done. They're either 42 or 43 feet in diameter.
What did you say, 43 feet?
Either 42 or 43 feet in diameter. It's a circle.
Mhm. Okay.
Correct. Mhm. So it'll fit perfectly in that spot over there.
Okay, cool. Well, bringing up the playground, I think it's a priority that we need to be getting it in. I mean, it really is a shame that the state and the governor does not bring in his administration, that causing Fort Wright residents to pay, $10 more a ton? Ain't that the difference? $10 more a ton because of their decision. And forcing us to build this salt bin because, what the governor's doing, and we're losing the playground because of that. I mean, it really is sad that the governor and the state of Kentucky is not willing to work with Fort Wright to keep our costs low. So we could have kept the playground. We could be doing stuff. I mean, going back, you all remember that he showed up and there was a big presentation or a check of some sort on Sleepy Hollow Road, that crosswalk.
The rubber check
The rubber check on crosswalk.
Yeah, for the crosswalk up there.
And hear all the kids on St. Agnes, nothing ever happened with that. The cost went through the roof, I guess, or got too expensive, and you never heard anything from the governor's office since. I look at now Kyle's Lane being kicked out of the bridge project.
Well, that reminds me, real quick, I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I did reach out this past week. I think I copied you guys on that too.
Yeah.
Trying to copy you and everything and kind of said, could I get an update? And so far, because it's been now months since we've heard anything official from the Transportation Cabinet about the bridge project, and particularly the impacts on Fort Wright, the overpass, the roundabouts, and all that sort of stuff. I've heard rumors, no official confirmation, and again, no response thus far, that has been basically kicked out of the plan entirely.
Yeah. They're saying just a mile from the bridge is all they're going to do.
So, once again, I guess then that gets us back to, for those of you who've been around for a while, I've been saying, how is it possible that I can drive less than 10 miles into Ohio, and there's all these beautiful overpasses and so forth, and, we would potentially be willing to spend our own money for some of these improvements, and, until this project came along, the answer was always, no, you can't do that. So I don't know if this gets us back to, assuming they're not going to do that now, do we want to start the conversation again around what sort of aesthetic improvements could we make there? Because, let's face it, it looks like crap. It's looked like crap for a long time. If that is true, it's disappointing to me.
Just go through and look at the concrete curbs up there.
Yeah,
They're all broken. They're falling apart.
It's embarrassing.
They keep telling us they're not going to do anything because we're part of the bridge project. Now that we're kicked out of the bridge project, I'm going to say it, I think we are kicked out of the bridge project. Whether or not they want to verify it or not, we are. We're not going to get the interchange. The pretty drawings.
But conveniently, we have, mountain parkways to nowhere and all this, millions of dollar road projects in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky, and here you are in the gateway to the state coming south.
Correct.
And it's a joke. It's a joke.
The same thing, you go down here on 3L. Just look at the curbs, look at the islands, it's some of the worst roads in northern Kentucky are down there on Kyle's Lane, the broken concrete. But yet the governor just showed up at OKI and they want to stand there and talk about how great this project is and all that stuff, but they keep kicking things out and doing things that, we were presented drawings, we went through meetings, we had a beautiful overpass. I think the last thing I heard is that we're at least 5 years after the bridge project, right? Is that maybe?
I have nothing official. All I've heard is rumors from people on the street, some of whom probably are in the know, but I know no more than you guys do.
Mine was from somebody that's on the contractor side.
I attended the meeting at the DOT, and that's what they said was 5 years out.
Yeah, 5 years. I don't understand why the governor wants to keep signing these things and doing these checks. I don't know if it's for political purposes or what, but you look at St. Agnes, I'm just throwing it out because it's true. Stand there and send a big rubber check and then nothing's happened, nothing does anything. These roads down through here, you know what it was like, how hard it is. We had to work for some restriping, basically, on this highway. It's kind of like a little donut. Here you go, Fort Wright. Here's a little donut. But, okay, I've vented enough. That's all I got.
It is very frustrating.
It is.
Well, I would just remind folks at home again, we have a lot of state roads within the city limits of Fort Wright, 17, Dixie Highway, Kyle's Lane, Highland Pike. And, we will occasionally get complaints about the conditions of some of these roads, and again, it's like you're complaining to the wrong person, right? I can take your complaints to the Transportation Cabinet. I can take your complaints to our elected representatives, State Representative Stephanie Dietz and State Senator Chris McDaniel. But at the end of the day, you're complaining to the wrong person or persons. And I'm only bringing this up because, as a reminder, because I think this is a great tool, and I applaud Kent County for putting it together. We've occasionally shared this in our social media. Kent County now has this road tracker thing. So you can be, if you want any road in Kent County, if you want to know who's ultimately responsible for it, is it a city, is it the county, or is it the state? You can use this handy tool they've got. I forget what the URL is. Again, we've shared it in social media. We have a link to it from our website. But it's a good resource for people to understand, like, hey, if I have a concern about a road, whether it's a pothole or whatever the issue is, direct it at the right place. Because, again, telling Fort Wright about the condition of Kentucky 17, yeah, we know it sucks. We know it sucks. But other than continue to plead, cajole, beg, etc., unless we decide we want to take it on ourselves, which obviously would be, no way could we afford to do that on any ongoing basis. That probably just that one stretch there would be our road budget for years, if not decades. So, yeah, it's pretty frustrating. And especially, I find it especially frustrating that, again, after all these presentations and all this, hey, public, we're going to have all these things, now it appears, again, no official confirmation, unless they're watching tonight and an email has shown up in my mailbox here while we're on TV, which it has not. It sounds like we're going to get nothing yet again. So, okay. Well, on that happy note.
Sorry.
Wah, wah. That should be the sound when we talk about this project.
The highway project, yeah.
Okay. I think that gets us through the agenda. I did want to throw out one last thing, which is we put together sort of a state of the city letter, which we sent out via the email, our email list. It's published on the social media. It's on the website as well. If you're a resident, I would encourage you to read it. At the end of the day, this is your city. It's your resources. It's your money. We're just shepherding it on your behalf at this point. I think things are going well. I think that was confirmed by the audit yet again. I think we're in the best financial condition we've ever been in by a large margin, and really the credit goes to the 6 people on council here plus staff. But you can read all that in there. Again, I encourage people to go read it for themselves. If you got questions, reach out. And on that note, that is it. We don't need an executive session tonight, so do we have a motion to adjourn? Weber, second?
That's best, thank you. I've been having so much fun, I want to say.
I understand. I mean, this is rather titillating,
We've only been here less than an hour and a half. So.
It's certainly not a record. I mean, I can keep talking. I can keep talking and extend it for another 45 minutes. You guys know what my hot button items are. Just throw a few out and I'll just start ranting. We get on Surge, All right. We have a motion and a second. Collins. Roll call, please.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Wessels?
Yes.
Ms. Witt?
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all. See you in a couple of weeks.